Hey guys, so today I'm gonna be making some stewed ribs with pink beans and white rice, Boricua style. First things first, I'm gonna do a quick little sofrito, which includes red and green bell pepper, onion, garlic, and some cilantro. This is just a little quick something because I didn't have any more sofrito, so this was just a few ingredients that I had in my house. Later I do want to do a video of me making my sofrito, excuse me, and what I include in it. So here is my little quick get up, little little sunlight. And even though it was something simple, like it still has good flavor. So the meat that I'm going to be using today is pork back ribs. I was going to use pork chops, but I didn't have any, so I used these. So there on the back of the pork chop, there's a layer of silver skin. And it's best to take that off so that you don't have that non-chewable layer on your meat after it's cooked. So I'm going to go ahead and peel that off. And you're going to see like the before and after of how it looks. Well, you're going to see the after of how it looks. You already saw the before. So yeah, this is how it looks. And now it's going to be a lot more tender whenever you cook it. So I went ahead and I cut up the ribs into smaller pieces. And now I'm going to clean them with some vinegar. I usually clean my pork with vinegar. I know some people use lemon or lime. I do get a lime because I had one in the fridge that was getting old. So I do use a lime too, but you don't have to do both steps. And I mainly do this because pork has like a greasy kind of texture to it before it's cleaned. And I want to clean all that kind of texture off of it. Make sure the meat is nice and non-greased. I don't know why it feels like that. But yeah, the vinegar and the lime usually helps get it off. But yeah, you could just do one or the other. And then you could make sure you do it to both sides, of course. You want all of the meat clean. Then we're going to take those pieces of lime and use it to kind of like scrub the meat. So you're really getting that greasy texture off of the meat. And once I'm done playing with it, I'm going to put the phone down and really get into it because it's kind of hard to scrub the meat with one hand. But yeah, so here's how it looks. Just kind of taking that piece of lime and just scrubbing it all over the meat. Then I did rinse them with water and I patted them dry. So now we're going to go ahead and go in with our seasonings. I don't know measurements. I learned to cook just by watching and just by trial and error. So I'm not really one to cook with measurements unless I have a specific recipe. So I'm going to put in the description of just like a guesstimate of how much seasoning I use for each. And you can give or take any of these things. You could kind of just season it to your liking if you wanted to do that. But I will leave in the description a guesstimate of the measurements. Now here I'm going to add some brown sugar. This is light brown sugar. This step is totally optional. Totally optional. And I say that because with the stew, because there's brown sugar, it is going to make it a little sweet. So if you're not into that kind of stuff, then you can totally leave that option out if you wanted to. But yeah, now I'm just going to go ahead and rub in all those seasonings and make sure everything is nicely coated. And we're just going to put that set to the side and we're going to get the rest of our stuff going. So here we have some potatoes, some more bell peppers, some onion, and some garlic. And that will be used for the stew and the beans. So here, you know, you got to rinse your rice. Got to make sure you have clean rice. And a little trick for your rice, if you look at your first finger, that first line right there, if you put your finger on top of the rice, the water should go to that line. And that's how you know you have enough water with your rice. Or you could do the measurements. Every cup of rice is 2 cups of water. So you can either do it like that, or you can do that little trick to save you some time, which is what I did. And then I just added some olive oil and some salt, and I'm going to leave that cooking without the top. And then we're going to go ahead and get into the beans. So I'm going to put some olive oil at the bottom of the pot for the beans. Take a spoon, about a tablespoon of sofrito. Let that get fragrant. And then add your beans, add your potatoes. I like to put 1 small potato in my beans. That's how I've always grown up eating it. That's how I like it, so that's what I do. Mix it all around, and then I also like for my beans to have some juice in it, because I like to put that juice over my rice. So at the bottom of this can, you see there's some beans left. I'm going to add some water and go ahead and put that in there as well. And then we can add our seasonings. So we got the jamon packet, which is amazing in your beans. I mean, that is just so good. Some bay leaves, some cilantro, and then if you really wanted to, you could stop at that point. If you wanted to add a little bit of salt, pepper, you could. But I added some oregano and some adobo. And that's it. The beans were amazing, let me tell you. I love to make my beans like this. But yeah, if you don't want to use like adobo, you could just use salt and pepper. I'll go ahead and mix that up and just let that cook until the potatoes get soft. And let me tell you, that is delicious. Delicious. So now here's the rice after cooking for about maybe like 5 minutes. And you see how there's little holes in there, and there's still water. So you don't want to put the top on yet, but you do want to lower your heat. And while I was doing the rice and the beans, I was letting my pan heat up with some olive oil so that I can sear these ribs on each side. You want to get a nice little brown crust on each side so they can be really tender after they're done cooking. And it kind of like cuts down a little bit of your cooking time. And of course it adds beautiful flavor. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and brown these on each side. And the pan left with all that seasoning in it, save that for later, because you know you don't want to throw away any flavoring. So yeah, go ahead and save that for later. So now here's the rice. You see the water is pretty much gone, and when you mix it around, the rice is still wet, which is good. That's what you want. So go ahead and mix it around. Put your fire down, put the heat down, lower, and then add your top and just let the rice steam. And in about 5-6 minutes, your rice is pretty much done. You just want to let it steam to get nice and fluffy. So now we're just gonna flip these ribs over to the other side, let that side get brown. And in no time, we'll be working on our the base for the stew, not the sauce. I guess you could call it a sauce if you wanted to. So now that both sides have that beautiful crust on the outside, I'm gonna go ahead and take these out and get crack-a-lackin'. All right, so here's the ingredients. We got some sofrito. We're gonna go ahead and put that at the bottom of the pan. And you see that first amount I put? You could literally just put that amount. I was rushing and just trying to get dinner done, and I ended up putting all of it, which I didn't need to do that, but yeah. Then we're going to take about a tablespoon of tomato paste, and we're going to mix those together and let that get fragrant, let them incorporate with each other, and it starts to smell really good. Add a little bit more olive oil because you don't want it to burn at the bottom. You want it to kind of look like it's burning, but you don't want it to burn, of course. You just want it to look like it's getting stuck at the bottom. So here is how it looks. And you could probably let it cook a little longer, but like I said, I was rushing. But yeah, that's about good enough. As long as it smells really good, everything is all mixed in together, you can go ahead and take the next step. And this is also completely optional. I just like to add more bell pepper and onion. Here's the rice all done. You see how it's fluffy now? So while the vegetables and the paste at the bottom are getting nice and pretty, I check on everything else. And then once that is where I want it to be, add the garlic and let that cook for about a minute. You see how it's just like everything is just like a paste now. So you just kind of want all those flavors to marry together. You want to let them cook. And then when you add the other ingredients, it'll all come together nicely. So now that has cooked down, first things first, I'm going to add some white wine vinegar. And this is going to add your tangy flavor to this. So this sauce is like, this stew with the ribs is like a sweet, savory, tangy kind of flavoring going on. So if you are not into the sweet, like I said, you could bump out the brown sugar. But I think that vinegar cuts really good through pork. So vinegar and pork are usually my two go-tos if I'm stewing it like this. I usually throw in a little bit of vinegar and it just tastes so good. So now you see I have some water in that pan with all the seasoning. That was about 2 cups of water. And you can go ahead and add that to the pot, and I'm gonna let it boil. Well, get bubbly like that, and then add the meat back. And this recipe is inspired by my childhood best friend's grandfather. Rest in peace to him. This is his recipe. I'm not sure if he did it this way, but this is the way that I'm doing it. I just took some inspiration from him. So yeah, now that we have everything in the pot, we're just gonna put the lid on and let it all make love to each other and come back in about 30 minutes. And I'll show you guys how it looks after about 30 minutes. So here it's been about 30 minutes and we're pretty much done at this point. You can let your top stay off now for probably another like 10 minutes just to let that liquid reduce a little bit. But you can see the meat is already tearing away from the bone. So yeah, this is pretty much it, guys. That's it. Is done. I'm just gonna leave the top off now for about 10 minutes, and you see here the sauce has reduced a lot. The oils from the pork has come out, and everything is just all loving each other and delicious and good. And there's the beans all done, and our beautiful rice. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoy this recipe. I hope that you get some tips for cooking, and I hope that you get some inspiration. Thank you so much for watching, and you guys have a good one.